What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube subscribers, Twitter and Instagram followers? It's Kush back at again with another Giants vid. Now, I haven't done one of these since Wednesday, I think. And training camp is usually because there hasn't been much news on training camp, and we know the Giants are going to move into more physical practices as the offseason and summer carries along. But in this one, we're going to talk about Joe Judge a little bit and the tone that he's setting at Giants training camp right now, with the fact that he's not really changing anything with his offseason plan like we've seen other coaches do this offseason. For example, the Eagles, they are no longer doing 7-on-7 drills or 11-on-11 drills. So that's basically a scrimmage, right? It's the closest thing to a scrimmage, and a scrimmage is the closest thing to a real football game that you're going to get in practice. The Eagles are not doing that anymore because they're worrying about their player safety. I'm not critiquing the Eagles for the decision, because it makes sense if, we are in a shorter offseason, we are in a different type of offseason program. You want to do as much as you can to protect your players and to not get them injured. So I can see why the Eagles did that. However, it does take away probably one of the best things you could do in a football practice, which is 11-on-11, 7-on-7, and even scrimmage drills. It's the closest thing to main action that you're going to get. In Green Bay, the coaches, they're doing 2 weeks of virtual workouts, which is reminiscent of last year's offseason, where I think the entire offseason was virtual, which let's be honest here, it has more cons than it does pros. Really, the only pros it has is that it's keeping people away from each other in terms of the corona situation. But if we're talking in terms of football, we saw the results last year on the field when teams for basically the first 4 weeks of the season looked like they were playing preseason games out there, and they were just not prepared and they were not ready to come back to NFL level of football because they didn't have that physical practice in the offseason to get both their minds back in place and also their bodies. These are professional athletes. It takes time to work their bodies back into shape, which is why injuries are such a concern. With conditioning and whatnot, it just takes months. It's not a short process of getting these guys' muscles and their tendons and everything just back into game form. And that's why we saw such sloppy football for the first 4 weeks of basically the first month, maybe even month and a half of the 2020 season. And we also saw a good amount of injuries as well. And then the Dolphins with Brian Flores, who you guys know, we as Giants fans, we have a lot of respect for the Dolphins and what Brian Flores is doing over there, mostly because it's very similar to what the Giants are doing over here with Joe Judge. They have agreed to do mostly walkthroughs for the first 2 days of the week for their practices, and to make sure that it's walkthroughs, the players have required that flip-flops be mandatory. So it sounds funny, but if flip-flops are mandatory, they're definitely not getting on the field, and they're definitely not going to be running around like they would during a regular practice. But Joe Judge, the Giants head coach, he said he hasn't had any discussions like that with his players, and we know it's not for lack of him going, I'm going to stick to my offseason plan and they're going to like it, because Judge, he does communicate with his guys. What this says to me is that the players are just ready to get to work. And now we got a couple quotes here straight from Giants.com. This is also from Michael Eisen, who is a Giants.com writer and editor. This is what Judge had to say on the situation. He said, "I think our players understand that anytime we put them on the field, we are always going to do so first off with their safety in mind. Then also what we think is best for the team to progress each individual's technique and conditioning as well as the team is collectively going forward. Now look, I'm always very clear, very transparent with the team in terms of how we're going to practice, what we're going to do, and what are our intents on going on the field and the reason behind that. We haven't had any discussions like that. If at some point a player wants to talk, I'm always very open and I'll give them a very direct answer." Now, of course, this was during one of the many, at this point, Zoom press conferences that the Giants have held in the offseason. I'm assuming this one was right after day 1 or day 2 of OTAs, considering the date of when this was posted onto the Giants website. But like I said, and Joe Judge even said it himself, he's very open to the players coming and talking to him. The fact that no player has approached him yet means that the team just want to get to work. I think they're recognizing that something is happening over there in the building. They're recognizing the success of last season, of course not in the win column, but in terms of progression and in terms of the culture that the Giants are building. And the Giants, in terms of OTAs, we're going to have 8 of them, and then the 3 mandatory minicamp in June, which is, next month. That's like literally a day away from now. This is what Judge had to say on the schedule. It was a good schedule for us to work on in terms of getting what we want to accomplish through the install and the players to get a chance to jump on their summers. A lot of guys will be training elsewhere with different players and locations. I'm gonna pause right there real quick. We all know, we've seen this already with Logan Ryan taking the defensive backs down in Florida, and I'm pretty sure he has all the defensive backs there. You know, it's Logan Ryan. I think Peppers pulled up. He couldn't make it for the first couple of days, but I'm pretty sure he went as well. Then we had Julian Love down there. You know, James Bradbury, Adoree Jackson, Darnay Holmes is down there. I'm pretty sure Aaron Robinson and Rodarius Williams might be down there, the two rookies. But for the most part, Logan Ryan, the leader on the defense, has literally the entire defensive back group down in Florida. They're not currently with the Giants, which is fine, guys. I know a couple Giants fans have been freaking out about the fact that not everybody is showing up to their current training camp. It's fine because the current one is voluntary. If they don't show up to the mandatory one, that's when you got problems. So I know Kadarius Toney, for example, that was a story at one point. The reason Kadarius Toney, our first round draft pick, hasn't showed up to camp is because the Giants have yet to actually sign him to the roster. They're still working out his contract, whatever the details are left to be worked out. I'm going to assume maybe it's a signing bonus or something, because the actual base salary of an NFL draftee's contract is always predetermined. And even then, I'm still a little bit confused because we saw, you know, he bought his family some stuff with the money he got from the NFL. So it's like, I'm just kind of wondering what is left to be worked out here with Toney. I hope it doesn't take too long, but there's a reason he's not there. It's not that he's not there because he's, you know, he has a bad work ethic and he doesn't want to, you know, be part of the team. He's not there because the dude hasn't been signed to his contract. It's kind of like a job. Like he hasn't officially gotten his job yet, so why would he show up in that kind of sense? And then continuing on with the quote, he says, "And others to go to family vacation and build back into training. We thought it was a good time frame for us to wrap up camp. The rookies have time on the back end when the vets leave to stay and get some extra meeting time with the strength and conditioning staff, and to really help the development leaving training camp." And then the final quote I'm going to read to you guys before I end out the vid, also from Judge, addresses what he wants to accomplish and what the players to leave with. He says, "The first part is to see where our players are at physically. Until I know these guys can go out and operate at 100% and stay healthy and protect themselves on the field, soft tissues, and we want to avoid collisions at part of this camp. Until we know that, we're not really going to go ahead and keep this as competitive as a drill. You will see them on team, 11 on 11 activities out there, but we will control the tempo in practice. But there are other times in individual and group work where we will ramp up and make sure that the guys work on skill development, timing, offense, defense, and place a large emphasis on communication this time of the year." And I mean, that sounds just about right. From regular training camps and whatnot, they're still doing the actual, you know, close to scrimmage drills as they can. They're keeping the tempo down. Makes a lot of sense. You're in voluntary camp. There's no need to go full speed yet. In fact, there's no need to go full speed until mandatory camp. But what I like is that Judge is essentially using this voluntary OTAs as a way to set the tone for the offseason, for the players that are there. They're getting real work in, and they're getting real development in. But you guys let me know what you think down below. Put your thoughts there, and I'm out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll catch y'all in the next one.